What kind of a diabolical mind would contemplate or conceive these 7 murders?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most shocking assassinations of celebrities and those in the entertainment industry.
We were unable to restore the life of Mr. Lennon.
Rebecca Schaefer.
Rebecca was shot with a powerful pistol. Revolvers are too easily available in the United States.
Known primarily for the sitcom My Sister Sam, Rebecca Schaefer was the picture of youth and promise. Unfortunately, her life was cut short at just 21 when she was murdered on July 18, 1989. Her work attracted the attention of one Robert John Bardo, an obsessed fan who wrote Schaefer letters and obtained her home address by using DMV records. He arrived on the morning of July 18th, showing Schaefer an autograph that she had previously signed for him. She was polite but kindly asked him to leave and never return. He did leave, but returned only an hour later and shot Schaefer in the chest. Following her murder, California passed the country's first anti-stalking laws and restricted access to personal DMV records.
They understand that stalking is a dangerous crime, whether the person appears to be dangerous at the moment or not. They can turn dangerous like that.
Nipsey Hustle.
Now to that breaking news overnight. Grammy-nominated rapper Nipsey Hustle shot and killed outside his own clothing store in Los Angeles.
Real name Ermias Askedom, Nipsey Hustle was a rising star in the music industry, with his debut album Victory Lap earning a Grammy nom for Best Rap Album. Unfortunately, it would be the rapper's only studio album, as he was tragically assassinated on March 31, 2019 in front of his clothing store in South Central Los Angeles. Hustle was in the parking lot when he got into a heated argument with a man named Eric Holder, who was supposedly working as an informant for the police. Passionate from the huge argument, Holder took out a gun and shot Hustle at least 10 times. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but was pronounced dead less than 40 minutes later.
He was so enraged and triggered by this emotional response that he acted without premeditating.
Jill Dando.
There have been several theories about Jill's killing, such as that she was a victim of a professional hit or mistaken identity.
A very popular TV presenter, Jill Dando was known for hosting the show Crime Watch and won the BBC's Personality of the Year award in 1997. But on April 26, 1999, she was tragically shot and killed outside her London home in what appeared to be a highly professional execution. According to reports, the killer grabbed her from behind as he was approaching the door, forced her face to the ground, and shot her once in the left temple. Her murder sent shockwaves through the UK and led to one of the most high-profile investigations in British criminal history, leading to the eventual arrest of one Barry George. George was put away, but the evidence was extremely weak and largely circumstantial, and he was acquitted and freed in 2008. To this day, Jill Dando's murder remains unsolved.
This was a professional hit all day long. The police initially thought it was a professional hit. Then a year later, that's when Barry George comes into the frame.
Selena.
It's true. I did have a problem with the doctor I worked with. But I would never take anything from Selena. Never.
With nicknames like the Queen of Tejano Music and Tejano Madonna, Selena was a huge star in the 1990s and helped bring Latin music to the American mainstream. Her tragic death stemmed from her relationship with Yolanda Saldivar, a die-hard fan who eventually became the president of Selena's fan club and the manager of her boutique. Selena's family began to suspect Saldivar of embezzling money from her various enterprises, and she was fired. Selena arranged a public meeting with Saldivar to hand over some financial documents, and it was here that Saldivar took out a gun and shot the singer in the back. Selena's death rocked the Latina community and beyond, and Saldivar was sentenced to life in prison.
Saldivar, a resident of San Antonio, was meeting Selena to hand over financial records.
Look at what I've done to my best friend!
William Desmond Taylor. The assassination of William Desmond Taylor is one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries, dating back to the early 1920s. Taylor was a major star at the time, acting in 27 silent films and directing a further 59. The star was found dead in his Hollywood bungalow on the morning of February 2, 1922, with a gunshot in his back. This occurred during a time when Hollywood was already reeling from several scandals, including the famous Fatty Arbuckle trials, leading to lots of yellow journalism and Hollywood's reputation as a sleazy city filled with vice and violence. While various theories have been proposed over the years regarding Taylor's murder, none has conclusively explained the crime, and it remains unsolved to this day. Sal Mineo.
He was a very unconventional kind of a Greenwich Village artist type, you know.
This beloved actor earned 2 Oscar nominations in his lifetime, one for the famous Rebel Without a Cause, and the other for Otto Preminger's historical epic Exodus. On the evening of February 12, 1976, Sal Mineo was returning to his apartment in West Hollywood after rehearsing for a play. As he walked towards the complex, Mineo was stabbed in the heart by a mugger. He was quickly found by his neighbor who heard the screams for help, but the damage was too extensive and Mineo died of blood loss. A pizza delivery driver named Lionel Williams was eventually arrested and charged with Mineo's murder, which was nothing but a simple mugging that turned violent. Williams served 12 years in prison and was released in 1990.
Walked each other up to the front of the theater and out into the street, and I probably gave him a slap on the back and said, "See you tomorrow."
The Notorious B.I.G.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player.
A significant event in the history of hip-hop and music more generally occurred on March 9, 1997, when Biggie Smalls was murdered in a drive-by shooting. Biggie had become embroiled in the famous West Coast-East Coast feud, and in the early morning of March 9th, he was shot while leaving a party at LA's Peterson Automotive Museum. A Chevy Impala pulled up next to Biggie's vehicle, and the driver used a 9mm pistol to shoot the rapper 4 times before speeding away. The LAPD investigated the shooting but faced numerous challenges, and the shooting remains unsolved. Key suspects include corrupt LAPD officers, infamous record exec Suge Knight, and a gang member named Wardell Fouse.
I think Poochie was involved. I think Suge Knight orchestrated it through his, at the time, girlfriend/baby mama.
Dimebag Darrell.
Well, Karen, fans continue to come to this home. They are bringing flowers, they are lighting candles, or they're just stopping by to pay their respects.
Darrell Abbott became a significant figure within the metal sphere as Dimebag Darrell, the famous guitarist of Pantera. Often considered one of the best guitarists in rock history, his life was cut short on December 8, 2004, during a concert put on by his side project, Damage Plan. The band was playing at the El Rosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio, when a fan stormed the stage and shot multiple people. Darrell was hit numerous times and died at the scene, and the shooter was ultimately killed by a responding police officer after causing further carnage. The shooting resulted in 3 injuries and 4 innocent deaths, and it's theorized that the shooter harbored delusions about Darrell owing to mental illness.
He was the type of guy, it didn't matter who you were, if he knew you or not, he would talk to you. Always a nice guy.
Tupac.
Las Vegas police have arrested a man connected to the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur.
The drive-by shooting that killed Tupac Shakur is one of the most notorious stories in music history, known for its random act of violence and unsolved nature. The famous rapper was leaving a Las Vegas boxing event on September 7, 1996, when he was shot multiple times in a drive-by. He died in the hospital a few days later, leaving a profound and reverberating impact throughout the hip-hop industry. In 2023, a man named Dwayne Davis was arrested and charged with Tupac's murder, following decades of speculation and scattershot theories. During the grand jury hearing, a witness revealed that the shooter was a member of the Southside Compton Crips named DeAndre Smith.
That's what I'm trying to tell everybody, man. You know, these guys were no poo-butts. They were gangsters, man. They shot and killed people.
Gianni Versace.
When we heard bang, bang, I thought it was backfire from the lawnmower that was being worked on.
To this day, Versace remains a key name in the fashion industry, a legacy that speaks to the immense talent of its famous founder. By July of 1997, Versace was famously living in a massive mansion on Miami Beach, which he had purchased for nearly $3 million in 1992. On the morning of July 15th, Versace was returning home from a walk when he was approached by serial killer Andrew Cunanan, who randomly shot him twice in the head. Much speculation remains about the murder. It's believed that Cunanan met Versace some years earlier in San Francisco, but the Versace family denies this. Furthermore, no one knows what Cunanan's true motive was, as he took his own life shortly after murdering the fashion icon.
Versace was a wealthy, older, gay man. Exactly the type of person Andrew made money off of, but I think hated at the same time.
Christian Poveda. Renowned French photojournalist Christian Poveda found an issue that needed more than just photographic representation. His debut documentary, La Vida Loca, explored horrific gang wars in El Salvador, mostly from the perspective of the 18th Street Gang.
No vamos a dejar de ser pandilla, no vamos a dejar de ser lo que somos, ¿va? Pero puta, es un trabajo y el trabajo se respeta, compadre.
Despite the film's renown, it gave some dangerous people more exposure than they wanted. In 2009, Poveda was shot dead in a hit by the 18th Street Gang facilitated by a corrupt police officer. Nearly a dozen conspirators were convicted, but one Salvadoran journalist asserted that Poveda's was just one of many murders in the area that day. Poveda believed in taking the ultimate risks to spread the most urgent stories. La Vida Loca remains a worthy success, but it cost a good man and important filmmaker his life. Galino Sanchez. El Rey del Corrido was in the right place at the right time to influence modern Mexican folk. Sadly, Galino Sanchez was not so lucky in 1992. 4 months after surviving a gunfight at Coachella, he dismissed a death threat at a concert in Culiacan. During the drive home, he was pulled over by men claiming to be state police, who needed a word with him at the station. Sanchez was found bound and dead of a gunshot the following day. The narco corrido trailblazer had his share of enemies as a volatile man who brought a criminal underworld to mainstream attention. Culiacan was and still is a cartel stronghold. Sanchez's killers were never identified, but his music and influence continue to expose urgent issues.
Porque mi corazón morirá por ti.
Joan Root. Kenyan conservationist Joan Root was a groundbreaking voice in environmental documentaries, a prominent activist who took on corrupt industries and poachers.
As a result, the nutrients that would otherwise be locked up in the dead wood are rapidly recycled into the system, making it a richer and more varied place.
This likely contributed to 4 men killing her in her home with AK-47s. But no one knows who exactly was behind the killing. It could have been any number of criminal figures and syndicates, with some evidence pointing to disgruntled or corrupt associates hiring the killers.
She didn't know Naivasha. She didn't know the area. She didn't know the people.
4 men were eventually arrested, with robbery as a suspected motive, only to be acquitted due to flimsy evidence. For all of Root's work behind and away from the camera to bring justice, she has yet to receive any herself.
Really, and her life story was a microcosm of what is happening to the not just to Kenya and Africa, but to the rest of the world.
Juliano MayJamis.
Yeah, the animal of racism is covered there with nice democratic discourse.
Actor and filmmaker Juliano MayJamis was beloved in Palestine and Israel, a citizen and outspoken peace activist of both states. His proudest achievement was establishing the Freedom Theater in the Jenin refugee camp. He was driving home from this cultural center when a masked gunman shot him 5 times in front of his son and babysitter. Though no one was ever convicted, it's suspected that the killer was a refugee and Islamic fundamentalist. MayJamis was always aware of the risks involved in trying to unify cultures with progressive ideals. Just as he brought together Palestinians and Israelis in life, he united them in mourning his senseless death. Andrés Escobar. Sports fanaticism can become dangerous. In a case like Andrés Escobar's, it can become fatal. The Colombian footballer was a hugely popular defender and public figure. Alas, his reputation plummeted after a 1994 World Cup match between Colombia and the United States, in which Escobar accidentally deflected the ball into his own team's goal. This helped seal Colombia's defeat and Escobar's fate. 5 days later, he was shot once for each of the 6 goals called during that unfortunate game. Humberto Castro Munoz, a cartel enforcer whose boss allegedly bet big on Colombia, was later convicted on a guilty plea. Theo Van Go. A descendant of Vincent Van Gogh's brother, Theo Van Go was a prolific and enlightening filmmaker. But controversy erupted around the first installment in his documentary series Submission, which dealt with violence against women in Muslim societies.
Oh Allah, Most High, life with my husband is hard to bear, but I submit my will to you.
The short film was written by Ayan Hirsi Ali. a Somali-born former Muslim who's been accused of Islamophobia. The backlash culminated in Islamic extremist Mohammed Bouyeri shooting and cutting Van Go to death. He then pinned a death threat against Hirsi Ali to the body. The very public assassination and murder trial gripped Dutch media. Van Go is now considered a defining figure of the importance of modern documentary filmmaking and a reminder of its dangers. Dino Bravo. Adolfo Bresciano was an icon of Canadian pro wrestling under the name Dino Bravo, but he was also swept up in violent enterprises outside of the ring. After retiring in 1992, he became a rising star in Canada's untaxed cigarette trade. It's assumed that he worked for his late uncle-in-law Vincenzo Catroni's notorious Montreal Mafia. Whatever he was up to, Bresciano's wife and daughter found him dead in his home with 17 gunshot wounds.
Moi, je pense qu'il a peut-être été naïf et souvent l'argent fait faire des choses.
Fellow wrestler Rick Martel speculates that his friend was targeted after police caught onto a cocaine operation he became involved in. Little is known about Bresciano's double life, let alone his unsolved murder. It's still all but certain that Canada's strongest man was finally brought down by organized crime.
Many times in that match we take care of the boss man, but he seems to be aggressive and he definitely has an attitude problem.
Paolo Pasini.
In maniera sempre informe, diciamo così, non confessionale, ma in certo modo religiosa del mondo. Ecco perché investo questo mio modo di vedere le cose anche nelle mie opere.
Pierpaolo Pasolini's shocking films and writing made him one of Europe's most prominent, if divisive, Marxist artists. His personal life was also steeped in controversy for his involvement with teenage boys. After Pasolini was run over and beaten to death, teenager Giuseppe Pelosi confessed to killing him in self-defense. The slaying quickly became one of the most notorious in film history, especially for evidence suggesting Pelosi's innocence. After being released from prison, he claimed that his confession was coerced by several men who likely assassinated Pasolini. It's now popularly believed that the left-wing figure fell victim to the right-wing terrorism that pervaded Italy by the 1970s. In 2023, a formal plea to investigate evidence implicating a politically affiliated crime syndicate was submitted.
Listen, you insignificant, wretched nothings. You are here solely for our pleasure. Expect none of the kindness you knew in the outside world, like liberty or the ridiculous idea of showing pity to others.
Sharon Tate.
Oh my God, Sharon.
The senseless murder of actress Sharon Tate, along with several others at the home she shared with director Roman Polanski, is a cultural touchstone of the 1960s. An 8.5 months pregnant Tate and 4 friends had been stabbed to death. Police soon arrested members of Charles Manson's Bohemian cult. While there is debate about their motivations, the leading theory is that Manson intended to frame black people for high-profile murders, thus inciting an apocalyptic race war he dubbed Helter Skelter. The bizarre incident has since gained an almost mythical reputation in the true crime and Hollywood zeitgeists. The fact remains that 6 lives were tragically and brutally lost.
2 years ago, the hippie commune led by Charles Manson moved into this old Wild West film set just outside Los Angeles. And it was here that they were living on the night the alleged murders took place.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. John Lennon. One of the most influential musicians of all time, John Lennon was also one of the most outspoken pacifists of his time. Mark David Chapman was a devoted fan, but resented what he saw as the hypocrisy in the wealthy pop star's humanitarianism. The Christian convert was also offended by Lennon's famously misinterpreted "more popular than Jesus" comment.
If you give me the opportunity, I will do it.
After months of planning, Chapman flew to New York City, followed Lennon into his apartment complex, and shot him 4 times in the back. This tragedy has become recognized as a defining symbol of violence in the modern age. Chapman himself now deeply regrets his actions. He also admits to his true motivation for such high-profile violence: to achieve his own fame. What do you make of these stories? Let us know in the comments below.
I didn't want to hurt you. I'm just a jealous guy.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.